Hello, my lovely YouTubers. So, you are probably wondering why I haven't done any new videos. I really want to make the video how to read an orchid tag and things like that. I have been sort of in a slump, and this always happens when one of my, I guess you would say prized orchids passes away. Yeah, so that's basically what happened. If it's a Maxillaria tendifolia passes away, it's like, well, it lived a good life, no big deal. Or if, one of my generic oncidiums dies, it's like, well, it had a good long run and, everybody meets their demise eventually, but when it's one of my favorites or prized orchids, which I've had quite a few of my prized orchids pass away, it's devastating to me, and I question my abilities as a grower. I don't know if you guys do that as well. I go into this, should I even be growing orchids? I question myself. Maybe I should just get rid of my whole collection, which would never happen. But when I get into these slumps, I just tell myself these things to, I don't know, I guess you're your own worst critic, so when you fail at something, it's like, well, you suck, you should never do this again, what were you thinking? And so that's kind of where I've been going in my mind, is just, I don't know, if you guys get the same feeling when one of your orchids dies, comment down below. I feel like this is something not necessarily taboo, people aren't afraid to talk about it because it's taboo, but they are afraid to sort of put their failures out there. I don't really watch too many YouTube videos where people talk about the orchids that they've killed. I see plenty of commenters saying, hey, whatever happened to this orchid? And, then the YouTuber will say, oh, well, it passed away or whatever, but there's no videos like, hey, I killed this orchid. And so I feel like I am going to sort of when my orchid passes away, I'm going to make a video about it, because that's how we learn. We learn from our mistakes, and I feel like if we're not sharing the good and the bad, or if I'm not sharing the good and the bad, then, I'm sort of doing a disservice to you guys. It can't always be sunshine and kitten kisses, so you do have to have the death in there with the life. Yeah, so it is so sad. This is what's left of the Vanda orchid. It suffered some crown rot. So you guys can see there, it suffered crown rot here, and it happened so fast. I mean, you guys know I just got this orchid end of March, and I've been in my slump now for a week. So this happened a week ago, a week and a half ago, and the roots are still taking in moisture. So I'm hoping that they will stay alive long enough to throw out maybe a basil kiki or something. I don't know. I'm not holding my hopes too high. It might just, sometimes when an orchid dies, the roots remain alive for longer, but I'm hoping. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I've sprayed it with Super Thrive, and I'm trying to keep it as dry as possible. Except for the roots, keeping this whole area dry and out of the sunlight. So we'll see what happens with that, but yeah, I was absolutely devastated. The name of this one was the Vanda stylus. It was registered last year. VCT is the abbreviation. I can't remember what that stands for. But the name was Florida Blues. It was just registered last year by Florida Suncoast Orchids, and I actually talked to the grower, Florida Suncoast Orchids. They're a very, very small nursery, so whenever you call them, you get the owner. So I called them and I told them what had happened and how I was very, very sad, obviously, and I didn't know what had caused this rot, because I've had rot in my collection before, and it's never taken an orchid so quickly as it did this one. And he was actually telling me that there is a form of rot called Erwinia, and it attacks orchids that basically they're either moved around a lot, which this orchid was. It was moved from Miami, Florida, close to Miami, I think is where he lives, to Jacksonville, and then from Jacksonville, it was in my car up to Charleston. So this orchid did take a bit of a journey, and when that happens, he said that their health can be lowered, you know, they can pout or whatever, and when they're doing that, they open themselves up to bacteria, and particularly nasty bacteria in this case, because if it was Erwinia, Erwinia has been known to take plants in just a matter of days. So I can't blame the grower, although when I looked at this orchid at the show, I didn't think it was healthy, which is why I cut the spike. As soon as I brought it home, I was hoping it would perk up. I wanted it to focus its energy on new growth and new leaves, and so that's why I cut the spike, but it only declined while it was in my care, and it looked healthy for a while, and then it just started dropping leaves, and I knew something was wrong, but by the time because it dropped like 3 or 4 leaves in one day, and by the time I got to it was too late. The top part had already rotted off. So I will keep you guys updated with this one, but you live and learn, you know, this was my first experience with the Vanda, and I guess Vandas would rather die than be near me, so I don't know what that says about me, but it can't be good when you'd rather go into the trash can than, you know, be in my care. But anyways, so because I was so sad, I went to John's Island Orchids, which is near me. It's the only orchid nursery near me, unless I want to drive 2 hours to Carter and Holmes, but ain't nobody got time for that. So I drove to John's Island Orchids, and I love that. I like the smaller nurseries. I don't know, I feel like you get a more personalized feel when you order from the little guys as opposed to the big guys. Now, that's not always the case. Big guys like Kawamoto or, I don't know, I just feel like with Andy's orchids, I don't know if I'd call Andy a big grower, but Andy's orchids, they actually called me to check up on the health of my plant. Who does that? There's not any orchid grower that I have ever purchased from that has called me 3 months after the purchase and been like, hey, how's it going? How's your, Brassivola? How's your Schomburgkia? And I was so stunned on the phone. I was like, this cannot be Andy's Orchids. This is, no. So anyways, yeah, that really says a lot about a company when they call to check up on your orchid, and if you do have any questions, that is the time to ask. Some people are too afraid or too embarrassed, but so that really takes the stress away from you having to call them because they call you. So I'll definitely be purchasing from Andy's Orchids in the future, but I also like to purchase from the little guys, which is why I purchased from Florida Suncoast Orchids. They were so nice to me when I told them about my situation. He's actually going to send me a brand new seedling. All I have to do is pay for shipping, so that is awesome for me. Because it's a seedling grown plant, I won't get the same bloom because, seedlings are so variable, but it doesn't really matter to me. I will love it regardless. I'll feel like my money was going somewhere because that orchid was $26. Yeah, it was a little pricey, but again, those blooms, they just sucked me in. I couldn't resist them. So I went to John's Island Orchids and I was like, I need orchid therapy. That's what I do when I have my pity party and then I have to go out and I have to purchase one to replace one that was lost because I don't know, do you guys do that? Do you guys replace orchids that are lost? Do you go out and buy another one? But keeping with my Laturia dendrobium theme, I actually got rid of both of my Dendrobium phalaenopsis at the last Orchid Society meeting. Oh, and I gotta show you guys the orchid that I got from the last Orchid Society meeting. But I got a Laturia type Dendrobium because they are pretty much my favorite section of Dendrobium. I don't like the Dendrobium phalaenopsis. I'm not crazy about Dendrobium nobiles, although I do have a couple. I don't really plan on getting any more though. So I do have a couple Dendrobium nobilis, but I plan on getting way more Laturia type Dendrobiums. So let me pull it down real quick. Okay, so this is the one that I picked up. I was hoping for a species, but he actually does a lot more hybrids. He said it's easier for him to grow them, obviously hybrid vigor and all of that, and he doesn't want to grow anything that he doesn't want to sell anything that he wouldn't be able to grow. So the harder species orchids and things like that, he tries not to grow them because he wouldn't feel comfortable selling something that was difficult to grow. So, you know, I was hoping for a species, but I ended up getting a hybrid, which I'm completely happy with. This one is in bloom. So you can see the buds there. And this one is Dendrobium Pam Tajima? Pam Tajima? I think that's how you pronounce that. It has a few new growths here. I think it has 4 new growths on it. So nice and healthy. So this is the one that I got from the Orchid Society meeting. It is Brassocatlia Mackay-Louise. And I think this one is going to be purple and spotted. It had a really interesting looking bloom. I'll try to post a picture for you guys so you can see it. Alrighty guys, I just wanted to do this quick update video. If you really want to help my channel, hit that subscribe button down below. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And as always, I love you guys. I will see you next time.